so improbable, the impossible has happened.
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow! In your life have you seen anything like that?
Hey TJ, what's going on? I'm Chandler, and this is Tiger Beat Sports. Welcome to a special edition of this all-crazy sports newscast.
Hey everybody, I'm Chandler with Sports, and this is the Sport Report.
Chandler with Sports is how he wants to go. With is his middle name, Sports his last name.
We're tired of bias. It's everywhere you look. At the Sport Report, we report on sports with a
neutral,
down the middle coverage
with an analytical spin.
We remove the bias so you can think about a team without any outside opinion.
No crazy points for attention. No power rankings.
No opinions.
Just sports.
We don't get paid $6.5 million a year to make stupid hot takes for attention. We also don't believe in clickbaiting you with outrageous or team-specific headlines. You decide how you want to view the game or team or the league. We're going to report on the facts without any bias. Hopefully the Orioles don't suspend us for that. We're out to change the game.
So let's get rolling. Hit it, please.
This is the Sport Report.
Here's CWS.
Thanks, Isaac, and to all of our correspondents for helping us put together a new intro. It's a team effort, and we wanted to reflect that in every show, even if they can't appear live every week. Hey everybody, I'm Chandler with Sports. This is Prime and Gold. We missed last week. I lost my voice. You probably still hear it. I'm still recovering from it this week. So we're going to combine Week 6 versus Arizona State, Week 7 versus Stanford into one pod, and make it quick. It's the tale of two games. And you could honestly say that the second half versus Arizona State and the first half of Stanford could be a game by itself. I lost my voice a couple weeks ago yelling at the TV during the Arizona State game, and then also kind of re-lost it again during the Stanford game. Also heard from some fans that they want a recap sooner rather than later, so here we are. We'll start in Tempe where the Buffs and the Sun Devils played football and Formation Bingo. What in the world is Formation Bingo? It's where Sun Devils head coach Kenny Dillingham decides to unearth unusual formations from the Bill Belichick School of Football and drive commentators crazy. Seriously, he did. The Buffaloes win 27-24, and for the most of the game, they were behind. And then they weren't, all of a sudden. In the third quarter, it was 17-14 going into half. In the third quarter, Colorado scored a touchdown in a 7-play, 61-yard drive capped off by a 9-yard touchdown to Giovanni Antonio, who was moved to tight end for the game. Buffaloes led 21-17, then kicked a field goal later in the third to make it 24-17. Arizona State scored a touchdown to tie the game up after a 13-play, 94-yard drive in 2 minutes and 36 seconds, capped off by a lovely 15-yard pass to Troy Amir from Trenton Bourget to make it 24-all. And then Shedeur Sanders, being who he is, 5 plays, 50 yards in 38 seconds, gets Alejandro Mata into field goal range, and they kick a 43-yarder with 12 seconds to go to win the game. It's just fantastic. Sanders threw a 43-yard Hail Mary to Giovanni Antonio on the far sideline to get into Arizona State territory on the first play of the drive. Offensive coordinator Sean Lewis decided, well, you would think, let's be conservative. No, he said, I think I'll pass. And so he literally did pass. And Shedeur completed the pass as a beautiful throw. And Colorado took the lead and won the game. But the second half was way better than the first half. They didn't get going in the first half. It was brutal to watch. In the second half, the offense started to get going like it has all season, like it did against USC, like it did against Oregon, like it did against every other team they've played this season. And then the first half against Stanford, they got off to a hot start. So let's fast forward to the Stanford game on Friday the 13th. The third all-time game on Friday the 13th for CU. They beat Miami 9-7 in 1961, and they lost to USC in November in 2015. So they're 1-1, they're batting .500. It was 29-0 at halftime. 29-0 Colorado over Stanford at halftime. I mean, I was looking through the record books to find shutout stats, to find largest victory for CU. And in the third quarter, Stanford's offense showed up, and they wouldn't go away, and they did not go away. Stanford scored 26 unanswered points to start the third and the fourth quarters. It was 29-26. Travis Hunter returned for the CU Buffs in this game. Alec Al-Minor. Let me say that again. Alec Ayu Minor. Yeah, it's a tough name to say, but He had 13 receptions for 294 yards of offense in this game, most of them coming in the second half. He had a 97-yard touchdown pass from their quarterback Ashton Daniels and a 60-yard pass from Daniels late in the third to get Stanford back in the game. He's the first opposing receiver to have over 200 yards receiving since an Oklahoma receiver did it in 2010. 294 yards is the most ever against Colorado. The previous record was 256. Colorado had a lot of issues in this game. We'll get to that in just a second. But Travis Hunter played too many snaps. Maybe he wasn't conditioned. He'd missed 3 weeks in a row due to a lacerated liver. But he came back, scored a touchdown to get the Buffs up back by 10, 36-26 into the fourth quarter. But then Stanford tied the game, scoring 10 points in the final 5 minutes and 6 seconds to send it to overtime. CU took the ball on offense, which you usually don't do in college football. They took the ball on the first overtime, scored on a 4-yard touchdown pass to Javon Antonio. Then Ayo Manor, 30-yard touchdown pass from Ashton Daniels, his third of the game to tie the game up at the end of the first overtime. Then Shedeur, off his back foot, threw an interception, a little high-rise rainbow pass, just picked off in the end zone on third down. He shouldn't have thrown it. He threw it late. It's a mortal sin as a quarterback. Hopefully he'll learn from that. But it's just a miss. And Stanford, all they had to do was kick a field goal, and they did. Joshua Carty kicked a 31-yarder. He missed a field goal earlier in the game, which was his first miss of the year. Stanford wins 46-43 in double overtime. It's the second night game at Folsom this season, under the lights in their 100th season at Folsom. It's the second double overtime game. CU won 43-35 over CSU in the Rocky Mountain Showdown a few weeks ago. This time they fall 46-43 to Stanford in double overtime. In this game, Shedeur Sanders threw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns through the air. He also had that 1 interception in overtime. Ashton Daniels had 396 yards of his own through the air and 4 touchdowns for Stanford. On the ground, Shedeur was nearing 300 yards of total offense in the first half. In the end, he only finished with 37 yards rushing, so he's still negative on the season. I believe he's close to negative 55 yards on the season. Need to double check that. Travis Hunter had 13 receptions for 140 yards. Xavier Weaver added 7 receptions for 124 yards. Both had 2 touchdowns. It's the first time in CU history that they have 2 receivers over 100 yards and both with 2 touchdowns. As for Stanford, like we mentioned, Ayo Manor had 13 receptions for 294 yards. The rest of the team combined for 105 yards. The other thing about Stanford's passing attack, their leading receiver had 227 yards of receiving combined in the first 5 games for Stanford. Ayo Manor had 294 in this game alone. Lots of things for Stanford to look back on and say, you know what, we came back, and a lot of things for Colorado to look at and go, we need to improve. Colorado had 17 penalties in this game. That is not a good number, mind you. 17 accepted penalties for 127 yards against the Buffs. They also had that 1 interception in overtime, and they trailed it by 9.5 minutes in terms of time of possession in regulation. So Stanford comes back from 29 points down to beat the Buffaloes. It's the largest halftime deficit ever overcome in Pac-12 history, the last season of the Pac-12 as we know it. The 4th largest comeback in Pac-12 history, the 2nd largest road comeback in Pac-12 history. And for Stanford, it's their largest comeback in their storied history since 1891, since William McKinley, the 23rd president of the U.S., was president. Yeah, interesting stuff there. For Colorado, it's their largest lead blown in school history, 29 points. The previous record was 28 points set in 2018 against Oregon State when they won in overtime. And then in 2010 when they lost to Kansas after blowing a 28-point lead. So this one a 29-point lead. Just staggering. Just stunning. That's the best way to put it. Colorado had 33 first downs and Stanford 29. Why are we focusing on the stats in this game compared to the Arizona State game? The Stanford comeback was magical, and Colorado's got a lot of things to work on. Coach Prime said to his team, you played like hot garbage after the Arizona State game, and they came back and started hot in the Stanford game, and then they played really bad. That's the nicest way to put it. Coach Prime said that it was a pathetic performance in the second half. The Buffs started strong, and then they didn't. They didn't finish strong. CU's 4-3. They go to their bye week this week, so we will not have a podcast next week. That'll come out on Friday. So, no analytical things to bring up here. It did get mentioned during the radio broadcast the Chanalytics, as we've termed it at this point, but we can't share that audio due to copyright restrictions. And Ralphie went further than 30 yards this time as the team came out firing on all cylinders, but it was for naught. Just CU's got a lot of things to work on, and this is going to be a rebuild type season. They've had 4 wins, and for a program that has seen 4 winning seasons in the last 20 years, that's impressive. And they've sold out every home game due to the Prime effect. So there's some good, there's some bad. Next season will really be telling for this Colorado offense, this Colorado team as a whole. So that covers Prime and Gold for Week 6 for Arizona State, Week 7 versus Stanford. I'm Chandler with Sports. We're going to go on by this week with the CU Buffs team. I'm going to hopefully get my voice back. In the meantime, tune in for our interview that comes out on Friday. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks to recap UCLA from the Rose Bowl for Week 8 of Prime and Gold.
This podcast is copyrighted by the Sport Report for viewers to understand sports from a neutral perspective and news reporting basis. Any other use of this podcast, the Sport Report logos, or anything associated with the company without the express written consent of Chandler with Sports is strictly prohibited.